Hello and welcome back to my channel. This week I'm going to walk you through briefly how I made this Moana costume here. Now I originally started this project sometime last year and then it kind of got pushed aside and left on the floor in my sewing room for a few months while I worked on some other projects. But she's finally done and now I'll show you how that happened. The first part of the costume I started with was the grass skirt, and to do this I got a bunch of raffia bundles, unravelled them and sewed them onto some cotton twill tape. Once they were all sewn in place, I cut the excess off at the top and then hemmed the bottom of the skirt so it would sit knee length. I then used an even wider piece of cotton twill tape to encase the entire top half of the skirt and make a waistband. The next part of the costume that I worked on was her necklace. I hand braided it myself using leather thonging, and I used a real power shell for the shell part of the necklace. Now on to the top. I drafted my own pattern for the under top that I made, and I cut this from a linen fabric. I then cut these pieces again out of interfacing, which I will iron onto one side of the fabric to provide more stability. I then sewed all of the pieces together, front and back, and then I made sure that I ironed all of my seams flat so that I could use them to make boning channels with. I used plastic boning for this project, and once they were all inserted, I then attached the front to the back and turned it right side out. The next part was the tapa cloth sash and bodice. So I cut my pattern pieces out and then I soaked the tapa in water and then I wet formed the tapa cloth to my mannequin so that it would hold its shape. I did miss a step here where I actually attempted to dye the tapa cloth using traditional dyeing methods with madder root. However, it didn't actually work out and I ended up having to paint the tapa cloth the reddy brown colour I wanted. And after that was done, I marked out how I wanted the trim on the bottom to look, and then using a chalk pen I drew on all of the designs that the bodice has. So now I'm going to walk you through what I have done and explain what I've got left to do. So first off, you'll notice I've put shells along the top. They were just hand sewn in place. All I've got left to do to the top is I've got to add a closure. So there's the linen layer underneath here, which you can see. I'm going to add eyelets in the back here so that can be laced up nice and tight, and then I just need to tack the tapa cloth layer to the linen layer underneath, and that's the top done. I've added another grass layer to the skirt. You can see the original length in there, so that just needs to be trimmed to length. I have done all the triangle pieces, all the triangle cutouts on the overskirt as well as all of the embroidery. So it was a mixture of twines and raw wool. And there's the flower there, and then also added the tassels to the triangle cutouts at the top here. What I've got to do next is finish these edges along here. I will probably just be adding a bit of bias tape and then folding it over ever so slightly like that, and then hand stitching it in place. If we turn her around, as you can see here, I haven't quite finished the flower here, so I've got to finish that flower and then the one just here as well. And then I've got to finish adding all the pearls along the bottom, and then that's pretty much done. That's all that's left to do on her. Yay! Now that the base top is finished, I've just got to figure out a way to tack the tapa cloth layer to the linen layer underneath at this particular point here, and then it does up just by lacing up in the back there. So really happy with how that's working. Here we go. I've tacked it down in 3 spots, the first one being just here in the front, and then just here in the back. So one there and one just in there. So that's all done now. She is all finished. Woo! So you know what the next step is. Let's go try it on and take some reveal footage. So there you have it. That is how my Moana costume was made. I'm really happy with it. I really enjoyed getting to work with tapa cloth as a new medium to me. I found that it was rather easy to work with once it was wet. I do, however, need to soften up the sash a little bit more, because at the moment it's rather stiff, but the more I wear it, the more I play with it, the more it'll become flexible. One thing I was a little bummed that I didn't get to do in this version of my costume is I initially made the overskirt out of the woven flax. However, that ended up being really stiff, and it wasn't giving me the movement I wanted in that particular piece. And so I ended up swapping it out for the woven cloth that you saw. And I love the flow of that in the breeze, and it looked so nice. But yeah, a little bit disappointing that it wasn't the flax which I initially wanted. But other than that, doesn't it look great? Isn't it wonderful? Anyway, if that's your cup of tea and you enjoy watching me create things, come back next week and I will be starting my project for the upcoming Armageddon Expo. Don't forget to come back next week. Bye. Did she do that any slower? Jeez.